So you want to dial in your golf swing at home. Here we've got an awesome aid to help you do that, the tour rotation stick.
All right, Milo, so tour rotation stick, something we use a fair amount in lessons. Obviously we don't use it with everybody, but there are times when an alignment stick down the shaft or a TRS, something on the end of this club, extending the club, can help with some of the dynamics we like to see in the golf swing, right?
For sure, and what it really gives is some feedback. Because oftentimes for players it's hard to tell what they've actually done with the golf club, but when there's something sticking out an extra foot or two, it's like, oh, I can see what I did. It
gives some feedback, all right.
Oh yeah, real fast.
So tour rotation stick, you hear the name rotation, right? So that's at the root of it. This is really a nice piece for kind of getting that tour-like impact, right? Turning the corner and getting some shaft lean, because a lot of you at home have probably seen something like this where you put it outside at setup, outside your lead hip, and then at impact you try to get it to avoid your lead hip a little bit through turning, rotating,
and wrist conditions,
and having a little shaft lean wrist conditions, right? So at the root of it, that's kind of what this is meant for. But there are a few other ways that we use the TRS as well, so we want to talk about those as well. So kind of go through the swing step by step, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So let's start with takeaway.
Takeaway.
So you're going to be our model here, and from down the line you can really see how this would work. Let's say you're a player who tends to kind of roll the club to the inside. What do you notice immediately with the tour rotation stick?
Right, that shaft's getting pointed way outside the golf ball.
And this gets way far away from your body.
Right.
So in our initial takeaway with the stick, what I want you to feel is I want you to try to make the stick run down your leg. So you're going to start your turn and there we go. You're going to get that stick to feel like it rides down your leg. If you do that, then the club is basically getting aligned with these clubs on the ground, or these sticks on the ground.
Right. I think a lot of people at home are trying to get the club per se in front of them, right, in the takeaway. But what I see happens a lot when they try to do that is their hands and arms go way out.
And usually the hands come out and then they roll.
Right, and then this gets pointed way outside the golf ball. So I like to see it where, if anything, the hands are staying just a little bit in to start. And like you said, the shaft is working down my left thigh. And let's get this line pointed somewhere between the feet and the ball.
Exactly. So we put a yellow stick on the ground here. That's a good checkpoint. You want to feel like you're pointing the end of that about at that.
Yep.
And that's going to get your body bending correctly and your arms not rolling excessively in the backswing.
All right, so this is something you could do at the house if you had some floorboards or tile or crack on the floor, right? Just kind of get lined up, have it between you and an imaginary ball, and just sort of swing back. You could even grip down on the club and just have the butt end do the same thing.
Yep.
So that's a good exercise you could do at the house.
For sure.
Okay. So now we got kind of a good takeaway feel. That gets the club in front of us, like you said, with our bends. Gets the club in front of us and kind of getting our hands and arms to move around with our body as well, right?
Yep.
Kind of together. Okay.
Now let's kind of take it from top of the swing, so a little transition feel. So what I like to have happen here is, as we're transitioning, I like the stick to start to aim outside the ball some amount.
So almost the opposite of what we were just talking about.
So now we're going to create a little loop.
So it's kind of that sort of the line staying in, now the line's starting to go back out.
Yes.
Okay.
So kind of a stand-up lay down, and that's another thing you can practice slow at home. Just feel that transition. Feel how to turn it up to the top, kind of sit down and start unwinding and get that club to shallow out just a little bit.
You can see actually when I do it, the stick is almost pointing right back at the ball, or
it points just outside of it, which is, ideally it doesn't even really have to get that far outside the ball. Just back out to the ball is good enough.
And you notice too, for a lot of people at home that have never really felt the center mass, the club weight getting behind them, you might need to feel it in your hands and arms first. So you may need to get to the top and just sort of let this fall a little bit. Something we've called the doorknob move before. Another video you guys can watch. And, that gets the feeling. Then you can turn out of the way. But ultimately, let's try to make that happen with our pivot, our unwind, right?
We want the dynamics to create it.
So you can see I get in the ground, and that kind of makes it happen too.
Yep.
So I like getting it going that way.
Perfect. So we've kind of covered how we transition, how the tour rotation stick can show us if we're getting that little shallowing move. Then I love it because it can show us good solid impact.
Yeah.
And we can hit all these checkpoints slow motion. I don't really recommend hitting balls very hard with the stick. I like to do it in a slow speed and really exaggerated. Really feel that club stand up, lay down, turn and hit it without flinging our wrists at it.
So you're even saying for these short swings, kind of like this, and turn.
Yeah, and actually practice hitting little shots, feeling all those same dynamics. So stand it up, shallow it out, turn and hit it. And that's a really good way to practice getting the club to do what we want it to do.
And the thing too, anytime you guys are using a tool like this, a training aid at home, or you're making a dramatic, exaggerated swing change, do it slowly and bring down your expectations a little bit, right? We're not necessarily looking to stripe it out there 180 yards with a 7-iron right now, right?
Well, that's one of the hard things, is most people want to be able to make the change they want and get the ball to do what they want now. And it's a process. Now it's time to go slow and make the changes stick, and then gradually ramp up the speed. But if you can't do it slow and get it right, you can't do it.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Right, exactly. And you know, you could even just come in here with this training stick and basically rehearse impact, something we've done a video on too.
Yeah.
Kind of get the lead side out of the way. Now the shaft is just slightly off my left hip, and my hands got forward a little bit because I kind of cleared everything out of the way, and then just chip one out there. So now you start to feel, okay, now I feel my bend. I felt what impact felt like. The ball came out a little lower.
Yep. All good stuff.
So training it slowly, exaggerating it a little bit. You know, if you speed it up too quickly, this will start to hit you in your side, and you'll know it.
For sure.
I mean, talk about feedback, right? So now, I also, when I do this, to me, I don't necessarily want this getting as far away from me as possible. I want it to come back around and maybe eventually kind of glide up my side.
Yeah, eventually it will, because of what's happening is the club does start to unload.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're hitting these little shots and you're not unloading, if your trail wrist doesn't unload at all,
yeah,
then the end of the club stays pretty far away from you.
Right. Right, exactly. But I think a lot of people use this and they think it in the golf swing it never comes back around.
No, it does.
It's like,
it actually releases and it would hit you, or at least rub against you as it goes by.
Right. So that's why, again, doing these slow, smaller swings to start out with. So you hit some kind of like that, and if I turn around to the camera, I'm kind of like this, just in my finish for that shorter shot.
Exactly. Now you didn't get your hands up there forward by pushing your hands forward.
No, sir.
You turned them forward, right?
Yep.
Without unloading the wrists.
Right. Exactly. Cool. Okay. So there's a great training aid you guys can use at home. We're going to give a little link below with a little discount, all that jazz. But you know, if not for the tour rotation stick, you guys could use an alignment stick, or if you're at home and you know you're in your house,
you don't need any of these. You just grip down where you have a chunk of the grip sticking out, and you can do the same motions just with the feedback from your grip.
And you know, it's even just making some full swings that way. It can be a really good feel for some wrist conditions and kind of turning out of the way. It kind of forces you, because otherwise it'll hit you in your gut with that one.
Yeah, if you grip down like this and it hits you. So you have to turn your body so you don't get whacked.
Awesome.